Hi, I have Crescent. We have opinions. Yes, we. Me and Scram. Say hi, Scram.
Hi, Scram.
Anyway, so we have opinions because LDY competition has just finished. And to be honest, there's some issues. Before we continue, I would like to preface that anything said by me or Scram is our subjective opinions. We have sat here thinking about it for a while. We just want to find means of advice to improve future competitions by LDY, and we know that it takes a lot of effort to put on a competition, and we fully support them for the great work that they've done. But with great work can come flaws. So this is just us sort of saying what we think could do to improve those, and things that we picked up on that might not necessarily be the right way to go about things. First, we have the scorecard, which I believe this is a situation that is going to be resolved fairly quickly. I have already spoken to them about it, which I will get into in a second. But essentially, the scorecard started off with being public during the submissions period, and judgment period it got taken down. Understandable. We don't want, things to be leaked. We don't want scores to be shown to the public early. I fully get that. However, when it comes to the results, people want to know where they placed. And so I had woken up, seen that the results had been published, and I noticed that it was only the top 50. The top 10 was put in a podium kind of style, and then the other 11 to 50 was put into a full list so you could see their names. Curious to know why, I had messaged LDY and asked them when the full scorecard would be published, because my own beliefs would be that we would get, the prize placements, and then the full list would come out so everyone can see where they placed and kind of compare with friends or compare with other flippers, that kind of thing. And I had got a reply back saying that it wouldn't, and that essentially if you wanted to see where you placed, it would be a case of everyone has to message LDY individually. You was not allowed to ask about other people's scores, and it was only your own that you was allowed to view. To which I had said, sort of, why is that? Why would that be the case? And what I got back was a reply to say that it was a privacy thing. Apparently, it was something about they didn't want to expose the results, which it's not a case of exposing them. You are the competition owner, you are the one that's running it, you should be the one that's providing it, and, allowing for people to see that without them having to ask you. That's how most competitions go. So, pushing further, and I had a back and forth of asking sort of why exactly that would be, what is the reason behind it. They had given kind of a basic answer of, well, US school systems do it, so we are too. To which it would be a question of, well, why would you be following the regulations of a school system for a leaderboard, essentially, and a online competition? To which they had said, oh, we've already explained, and that they wasn't going to explain further. But really and truly, the way that I see it, it's a case of, as I said, it's an online competition. You shouldn't have a privatizing or not wanting to allow for scorecards to be seen, because the same way with people wanting to see where they place on a leaderboard in a game competition, anything like that, everyone's going to want to know, whether it be that they placed high, they placed low, it doesn't matter. People want to know. People want to see how they can improve. And the fact of being able to see why you was scored certain points and then being able to compare yours to other people who scored similar to you, being able to see why someone scored lower, someone scored higher, seeking out those videos and comparing them. It's the best way to improve, in my personal opinion. But that hopefully is going to be resolved soon, because I kept pushing at the end of the day, because I personally believe that you shouldn't be privatizing a once was public scorecard. And they put out a poll stating that if they should essentially expose the results or respect privacy, which I'm gonna, being harsh here, I think that it is a very odd way to put it, considering the fact that it's not you leaking, government names, you're not leaking someone's address, you're not doxing them. But then they proceeded to say anyone who is going to essentially say no, they're going to have their names redacted, which I didn't realize that a competition scorecard was the Epstein files. But hopefully that situation gets resolved. I personally think that from the get-go, you should have the result published the moment that you publish the results of the winners. Moving on, we have the fact that judges were allowed to participate, which there's already problems with the scoring system that me and Scram personally found. He will get into that later. But I found that judges were allowed to participate, which in any competition or anything like that should not be allowed. Because what do you mean the person who dictates the score is the one who gets to also enter? It's like sort of sitting there and saying that someone who runs, I don't know, a government can sit there and dictate whether the fact that they are still allowed to, be in as that person who runs the government or not. They shouldn't get a say on whether they do or they don't, because there is a major bias. It is themselves. Whether you want to say so or not, you all have a personal bias against yourself, or not against, but you have a personal bias for yourselves, sorry. It's called an ego. Pretty much that when you look at it, I don't know how many of the judges actually entered. I know that there was a couple, I believe it was. But as a judge, you shouldn't be allowed to enter the competition that you are hosting. For example, recently, Ballet Academy had the Winter Wipeouts, and I was one of the judges. And I had openly sat there and stated that if I'm going to enter the competition, I'm not judging. If I'm going to sit there and have a opinion on who wins and who doesn't, I don't want the fact that I am one of the competitors to have a bias against myself, or a bias for myself. Which, once again, I get it's a thing of, oh, well, people want to participate. If you want to participate, don't be a judge. Simple solution. If you want to be a judge, don't participate. Because at the end of the day, you having a say over what your own score is, it's very much going to sway the scores, whether it be that you vote yourself higher or you just give other people a lower vote to boost your own. I'm not saying that it can happen, I'm not saying that it won't happen, I'm not saying that it will happen, but essentially having the fact that a competitor is one of your judges can allow for essentially people to sit there and call for action against that person, because why would you allow someone to dictate the score while also competing? It wouldn't make sense. Why would the Olympics allow for a Olympic swimmer to judge themselves based on how they done a high dive and then accept it as that it shouldn't happen. And I get that, you know, if someone was a judge and they did enter, you know, they spent time on that. They spent time on their submission. Good for them. I think that the fact that people spent time on their submissions and they wanted to make it as best as they could is a great thing. Having a competition and being able to bring the community together and essentially innovating the way that things are done and finding a means to push yourself as a flipper, push yourself as an editor, push yourself in ways that your combos never have before. It's what makes the hobby so great. It's what brings people closer to their goals. And having that friendly competition is a great means. But you have to know when you should enter a competition, and at the end of the day, judging a competition and entering it doesn't mix. But I think that's everything from me. And you know what? Take it away, Scram. Scram?
It's kind of hard. Now, while judging is hard, I think the criteria for what judging should have isn't really. And I think that while I think the judges themselves, some of them did, you know, better than others for the comp, and some did worse. I think their ratings can make sense, you know, based on who I would suspect each judge is. I think the ratings kind of make sense. My problem lies, or the problem overall with the judging, I think lies more so in the categories. Because, for example, a category like skill doesn't really make sense, because there's a lot of, you know, that's an umbrella term. There's, you know, you got complexity, you got flow, and, you know, you got consistency, and more, you know, variety, stuff like that. And then you have another category, which is cleanliness. But cleanliness is also an umbrella term for, you know, flow and execution and, you know, stuff like that. And so you have these two categories that are just massive umbrella terms, and the terms they cover kind of apply to both categories. And then on top of all that, you know, we have something like the judge's taste category, which, come on, I don't think that should be a thing. That just lets people be as biased as they want, pretty much. And we have the impact category, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, the impact category. Are those not the same thing? Like, what is judge's taste? What does that even mean? One would, most likely, I would say, describe judge's taste as, you know, the impact the video had on them, how they felt about the video, right? The impression left by the video and how much the judge liked the video. So, now we have two categories that are the same thing, except for we actually have four, because skill, cleanliness, same thing, pretty much. They're both together. Judge's taste and impact are also the same thing. So now we have three categories, which isn't really enough, I don't think. And so one of the biggest problems with this comp so far that we've seen, or that, you know, I've seen people complaining about, is the judging. And yes, there are some bad judging moments. Henry was robbed so badly. Two on creativity, bro. But whatever, who cares? I mean, well, us, but that would not have mattered so much if it wasn't just an absolute run killer. Like, that's crazy. It had such a big impact. It's like, 4% of the score, on its own. But the problem is that when you have two categories that are the same thing, it's kind of like, well, if I give this one category a score, I'm going to give this other one the same thing. It's going to be pretty closely knit. And, when you have a crazy, like if you have a flipper that's really good at doing like crazy shit, but their flow is garbage, then like, what do? One would think you would rate the skill highly and the execution or the cleanliness lower, right? I mean, that would make sense. But the problem is that flow is arguably more important than complexity. And so when these two categories, when one category, being skill, encompasses both complexity and flow, and then cleanliness has both flow and execution, someone having bad flow is bringing them down twice as bad. And then you have the judge's taste and the impact. And I already went over this, but when you're judging something on taste, it's about how that piece of art made you feel, the impact it had on you, the feeling it gave you, how you, respond to it. And when you have these two categories that, again, are the same thing, your problem is that now you have these judges and they can just be as biased as you want. Like, I mean, there were plenty of people who were robbed of spots, bro. Draw was robbed. Henry was robbed, I think, again. CCC King, I mean, he got 10th, but not even top 5. That's kind of crazy, right? So, it's a thing of, like, you have these two behemoths of categories, and then you have, editing and, presentation stuff and creativity. And the problem with that is that editing is in personal taste, and creativity is in skill. So it's like, at this point you have two categories, and two actual functional categories, and that just doesn't work. Like, it completely ruins all of any credibility the judges could have had. Without separating complexity and creativity and flow and editing and all of that, you have to separate all of that. Execution, uniqueness, all of this, and a judge's taste category is ridiculous. Because, let's say I have beef with a judge, right? And so they just give that category a 0, and then they take the impact rating and they give that a 0. It's over for me. The score is now cooked because of not my flipping or my editing, And I think that really put a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouth when it comes to this comp, because, I love what LDY is doing and stuff, giving away crazy prizes and, bringing the community together with the comp, giving us great edits, incredible stuff from people, But when you have a comp where the judging just isn't even functional, it feels really bad. It feels awful as a community, and you know, as an artist of this, you know, an artist in this hobby, it feels awful to just be like completely fucked over by the way the judging works. And I think, you know, people are pretty clearly showing that, right? And then my next point, which, you know, sort of ties into that, it's kind of connected. The YouTube, the extra credit thing for posting to both YouTube and Instagram, like if you did that, you get like 1 extra point, which is crazy because that's 10% of your grading, 10% for free. So like, let's say someone like me, I got like a 4.6, I think, which I'm not even gonna get into that. If I add 1 point, that's a 20% increase. 20%. What are we doing? Why? Why is that a thing? Which is fine because I did post to YouTube, but the you know, the problem with that is, like me, I got copyright strike instantly because of the song I chose to use. So like, anyone whose, you know, video gets taken down, kind of just ruined, you know, they're cooked. It's over for them. Like, you know, someone could have a mid video that's like a 5, and someone else does a 5, post to YouTube, and they have a 6, and they're up 10 spots or whatever. And that's just bad. That's dumb. That's really dumb, I think. But, you know, I mean, what do you do? I think that adding that also kind of left bad taste in people's mouths, especially people that, you know, couldn't post to YouTube. Kind of mess those up. Especially when that's such a wide range of people, because YouTube has a problem with minors flipping. It's hard to get your video to stay on the site, you know. So yeah, overall I think the comp is a good thing, you know, it brings the community together, stuff like that. But I think the fact that last year was better, in my opinion, I think that really shows it shows something, you know. Don't fix what's not broken. And although the last comp had a lot of problems as well, I think this one was worse. And I think that we could have done better. And I think it was right there. Like, I don't know. Also, these comps, judge selections, I mean, they're just random. Like, you know, some of these people I get, but I don't know, they're just weird judges, I think. And I don't have a problem with the judges, but it's just kind of odd choices, I think. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, those are my points for the comp, I think. I think if LDY can improve these things, it'll make next year a lot better. Farewell.
That poor defeated boy. He, I think he's given up. But anyway, if you like this video or you have your own opinions, you know, leave a like, dislike if you don't like the video. Leave a comment as to what you might have in terms of opinions wise, how maybe you would go about changing certain rules of the comp, or, you know, ways of which you would like to see improvements in competitions or such overall. If you want to see more of whatever the fuck this is, subscribe. I'm hopefully going to post a review on this soon. I'm looking for Crescent owners to send me some of their opinions so I can add them to a video. If you are one of those people, DM me on Instagram, link will be down below. Follow Scram on Instagram, link is also down below. And join Bally Academy. Discord link will be down there somewhere. Yeah. that's all from us, and 1 like equals 1 hope for Scram.